And we are live once again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome once again to Sober Talk. It's been a while since we've done Sober Talk like this. And in this particular stream, we're going to talk about what constitutes as a bad day for anyone in sobriety, okay? And I'm going to say this is one of these ones that's going to come from the heart. I even got my big book handy, one of them. And we may have to refer to it every now and again throughout this live stream. So if you've ever wondered, this is the AA textbook self-titled Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you're maybe you know someone who is struggling with sobriety, or maybe they haven't found sobriety, or maybe they're newly in sobriety, or maybe they've been doing it for a while, or maybe you yourself are considering getting sober. This is definitely a live stream. Hopefully that maybe you'll be able to take away a little something from. Whenever I do a Sober Talk live, I always feel like I come out of it with a little something more than everybody else. So I'm hoping that maybe this particular live stream will help a few other people along the way. All right. So we're back to what the topic is today. What actually constitutes as a bad day for an alcoholic? Now, I'm going to say right now up front, being in recovery, as long as I've been in recovery, I guess you could say I got a couple 24 hours, as we sometimes say when you start getting a little bit of time. For those that would like to know how long I have been sober, I've been sober since February 7th, 2006. Notice how I rattled that off really, really, really quick. The first thing I got to say, the reason why that is so important to me, because that's the day my life changed. Okay. So February 7th, 2006, I walked into an outpatient treatment center, and of course they led me to Alcoholics Anonymous. All right. So if you're new to this, new to this type of live stream, the main objective is hopefully, this just helps somebody. All right. So I'm going to kind of wait a few minutes, kind of let some people kind of file in there for a brief second. I had someone in here. Be sure to share this out. And if you like what you see, be sure to hit the like button, that sort of thing. So we're going to have some fun with this. Right out of the gate, like I said, as people start coming in, this is just all about us getting sober. Okay. This is just about sobriety. I won't talk politics. I definitely won't talk religion. We're just going to keep this light, because sobriety can kind of sometimes be a little overbearing for some people. All right. So here we are. I already see a couple people in the live. Thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to jump in there. Hey, there is my partner, Mr. Sketch Scars himself, Mr. Jammin' John of Sketch Squad TV. Be sure to check out his channel if you've not done so. He's a dear friend of mine. It kind of helped me, learn how to network, and he did. He's an amazing thinker. Guy's like from another planet. Just an amazing guy. Be sure to check him out. You guys will love him. All right. Yes, and don't worry, we're going to do a special unveiling of all that stuff. Matter of fact, I got the box right over here, but that's for another video. Don't get ahead of me now. Don't get ahead of me. All right, so I got my coffee here, and we're going to talk about sobriety. That's right. I can't wait to. I already had it open, but we're going to do a special unboxing, live. All right. Hamburger time, huh? All right. Awesome. I love a good burger. All right. Again, now we've got 3 people live and 2 likes already. Thank you guys so much. All right. Hey, Angel Games. And this is another guy. I've been in his live a couple of times. Another fantastic guy. Y'all need to check him out. And if y'all don't know each other, be sure to network. Okay. So All right, back to what the topic is. All right, we're going to talk about. I'm getting all excited to see all of you. All right, you guys are awesome. What constitutes as a bad day for those of us in recovery? Again, I got sober February 7th, 2006. So I got a little bit of, I've been around a little while in Alcoholics Anonymous. So the first thing that we need to talk about when you first get sober, every day seems like it's a rough day. Every day it just seems like, it takes forever and that sort of thing. But after you start working the steps, things start kind of changing, getting a little different. Um, and the thing that most people don't realize is that as you're getting sober, okay, and that sort of thing, and um, you start kind of getting used to, returning to the flow of life. One of the first things I'm going to tell you all is that there is no such thing as a bad day in sobriety. Okay. You're going to have challenging days. You're going to have rough days. And I'll tell you right now, for those that do not know, I work at a local McDonald's as a maintenance man mostly. And, there are days that, things just don't always go right, um, that it's kind of like the whole day blows up in your face. Uh, but I know if at day's end, even after a day like that, if I come home and I can still sit on the edge of the bed and say, at least I didn't pick up a drink today, it was still a good day. So I can have days where things don't quite go my way, it doesn't quite happen the way that I want it to, that sort of thing. But in 14 years, I've never had a bad day. Okay. I've had days that have been somewhat difficult. And I guess you could say that they haven't been as successful as they could be. But that being said, there's no such thing as a bad day. All right. All right. I'll have to go check that out. So there's no such thing as a bad day in sobriety. All right. Um, so and let me say I've had really really rough days, and I've went through some crazy stuff, and had things blow up in my face. Like I said, I work at a local McDonald's. You're going to have those days at work, and it doesn't really matter the job. That it's just going to be uh difficult. And there's even going to be times that you're going to be experiencing things in your sobriety, and that kind of relate to your past, and it's going to seem like it's kind of a big hurdle to get over. Again, there's no such thing as a bad day. Okay, one of the things that comes to mind is and it's something that an old timer actually said to me way back in the day. I think I was like 7 months sober when I heard it for the first time. And remember, I said this is Alcoholics Anonymous. So when I say this, it's in a spiritual sense. All right. And the spirit and what that is. Hi, Sheila. Oh, we're actually in here talking about sobriety. You're welcome to stick around, and appreciate the big thumbs up. Appreciate that. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. Um, One of the things that I heard early on in sobriety, 7 months, and again, when I say God, that's kind of in a spiritual sense, not in a religious sense. Okay, we do not do uh, religion, especially when we're in sober talk with being related to Alcoholics Anonymous. That's all. We'll get to that in a moment. But in a spiritual sense, thank you, Sketch. Appreciate you smashing that like button, man. In a spiritual sense, God is kind of a generic term. Okay, so the old timer, when I was like 7 months sober, um, he said in a meeting, "Today is a gift from God. What you do with today is your gift to God. So let's make it a masterpiece." So when I say to all of you, okay, that in sobriety, there is no such thing as a bad day. when does it become a bad day? When you start drinking again, okay? When you start drinking again, that's when that's when it became a bad day. You're no longer sober, okay? And I'm going to say it again, the old timers used to always say this, and I don't know why they don't do this. In the old days, we would sometimes hear the term a slip if you started drinking again. Nowadays, we use a more fancy word called relapse. But there was some old timers that were rough, tough, and hard to bluff that would oftentimes say, it's not a slip, it's not a relapse. You went and got drunk. Okay. So when that happens, you're having a bad day. Your recovery's out the wheel, out that window. Okay. Um, Thank you, Sketch. Appreciate that. So I'm going to say it again. Okay. If in 14 years, I've had days that weren't as successful as I would had liked them to be. I've had days that have blown up in my face, but I've never actually had a bad day in 14 years, okay? And again, my sober date is February 7, 2006. So, if you're just joining live and you're kind of picking that up now, how does this relate to the normal everyday person who's not an alcoholic, doesn't need to worry about recovery? Well, think of it this way, okay? Thank you so much. But there's many of us who talk just like I do. It's just that I have them. One of the things that my sponsor, Sober Man, likes to actually kind of say about me is that I have a knack for for kind of putting it into I'm good at putting fancy words, and I'm a good storyteller. So that's something he actually likes to throw out there at me. Okay, so that being said, being in recovery and everything, when I'm having things not exactly going the way that it should, okay? Um, and a lot of times it's, what's happening with me? Why am I not accepting the way things are going, the way that, that sort of thing? You all see where this is going. What's happening inside Prince Magnum, okay? What's happening with me? Why am I not, and sometimes, if it happens at work, I got to go and, you know, I got to get off on my own sometimes and kind of look at some things. Okay. I got to take a look at me, and I'm reminded a lot of times when things inside me are not okay, when I'm having difficulty and I'm struggling, with life, I guess you could say. It's not that, I have a problem with people. I just sometimes have a problem with living life. That's why I drank. Okay. It's just so I can cope with the fact that life is difficult. Okay. I'm going to say it right now. Okay. There's a whole mindset that we have talked about here numerous times here on the Prince Magnum channel. We've talked about this a great deal here on the Prince Magnum channel. The mindset that goes with being an alcoholic or an addict for that matter. Okay. There's like this serious messed up mindset. It's not just so much how much we might have drank or what happens to us when we drink, but there's like almost like this whole thing of bad wiring that goes on between our ears that, if you will, there could be books written about the mindset of an alcoholic that'll blow your mind. And when I say the alcoholic, generically, we also throw in the term addict. A lot of people nowadays are duly addicted. However it works in your personal recovery, okay? Just plain and simple, all right? So now that we've kind of, sealed that in, if you will, almost forgot where I was going with that. I'm getting all excited talking about sobriety. What's going on inside of me is I'm having a problem with my third step. Now, there's a whole spot in the big book again, and I'll briefly talk about why we call this the big book, but it's self-titled Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a whole spot on there, page 60 to 63, that talks about the third step, and it really breaks it down. My sponsor, Sober Man, he was sponsoring me for the first 6 years of my sobriety, and then Some things happened, and then now he's sponsoring me again. He's been sponsoring me again for about a year. But there's usually something wrong with my third step, and I got to take a look at it again. And I have a kitten destroying things right now. But anyhow, that's his thing. Okay, so usually there's a problem with me and my third step, and Sober Man actually had me. Hey, JD Gaming, and what's up, brother? When there's a problem, we're actually talking about what actually constitutes as a bad day in sobriety. And right now, I'm actually breaking down when I'm having difficulty. You know, hey, Sean, my goodness, everyone's popping in. This is awesome. I love this. When I'm struggling, I'm having a problem with my third step. All right. And to give you kind of an idea, actually, I'll just go ahead and friggin' read it. I know AA would definitely approve of this. So we're going to go to 60 to 63, and you'll be able to tell I've read this a couple of times by how well I'm able to really lay this down. All right. If you start on 63, it starts right about there in the book. All right. Being convinced we're at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what we do we do? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we're almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he's more likely to have varied traits. What usually happens, the show does not come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes on the next occasion still more demanding or gracious as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Is he not the victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction out of this world if he only manages well? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get from the show? Is he not in his best moments a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as some people like to call it nowadays. He's like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. The politician and reformers who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, and our self-pity. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but invariably we find at some time in the past we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it will kill us. God makes that possible, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decide that hereafter in this drama of life, God is going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch, which we shall pass to freedom. When we sincerely took such a position, well, before I continue this next part, this is something that I had to learn, but what I'm about to read, hey, rubber chicks. All right, awesome. Welcome to the stream. This next part is what is oftentimes referred to as the third step promises. You'll hear people in AA talk about the 9th step promises. Well, these are the third step promises. For the record, when I heard the 9th step promises, I'm like, man, those are miles away, almost unobtainable. When I heard these, I'm like, these were important because these were pretty close and I could have them. And that was on, so when I read this, it's like, this is obtainable. So these were important to me, okay? So this starts on 63. We're almost to the end of this, but this is where it's at for me, okay? The third step promises. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we can contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. Those promises are still pretty important to me today. That was big. All right. And this is the actual third step prayer that I had to do. So for 2 weeks straight, I had to read this from 60 to 63, all of this, and then Sober Man and I sat down and we did this prayer together at the end of that 2 weeks. So this prayer is still pretty special. Of course, we'll talk about that in a second. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure that we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. Again, we are not talking religion. We're talking about spirituality. Real quick, I'm going to break this down for you. Religion is just a group of people who believe in a God of their understanding along the same lines, kind of, sort of. Not all of them fully agree, but it's along the same lines. Spirituality is your personal relationship with a God of your understanding. That's it. Okay. It's your own personal relationship. So when I talk about God, it's in that generic sense, however it relates to you. Okay. So again, that's where we're at on this. So for me, when we talk about if I'm having a problem, a lot of times I need to actually sit down and break out this book and actually spend a little bit of time taking it in. And I have been neglecting the chat because this was kind of important to me. I do apologize. All right. Oh, you're right in the middle of the game, JD. Thank you for stopping. So many of you stopping in, and thank you all so very much. It means the world to me. Okay, So when I'm having a rough day, I need to get into this. But again, I'm going to say right now, I've had those moments that have been very bad. I've had, that's been difficult to get over. And I'm reminded a lot of times of another spot here in the book. And maybe this might help you. So again, there's no such thing as a bad day. There's, you know, even if I don't drink, at the end of the day, I still had a successful day. Okay. I still had a successful day. So just kind of keep that in mind. I know a lot of times, and sometimes I have to remind myself this stuff, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I have to be reminded. So we're going to go over here to page, I know where it is. 124. I knew it was right, pretty close. And this one has gotten me through a lot of dark moments in my life, especially in the last 14 years. It's really gotten me through a lot of stuff. Cling to the thought that in God's hands, the dark past is the greatest possession you have, the key to life and happiness for others. With it, you can avert death and misery for them. So anytime you go through something really bad, maybe the whole day blew up in your face, just remember there's going to be someone out there that's going to be going through the same exact thing that you're going through. Well, I don't worry about evil. My job, my job as a sober member of AA, as a follower of, I guess you could say, the spirit of the spirit of the universe, if you will. I don't claim that, especially when I do stuff for Alcoholics Anonymous and that sort of thing, it's all about, doing the next thing that I would want God, the God of my understanding, to have me do. Okay. And that's why, we're doing this live stream. So I'm glad that you came in, and of course, share any wonderful things that you have. By all means, anything. Just, I guess you could say, let your hair down and just be yourself. This is all about us. If you know someone who's struggling with alcoholism, drug addiction, and you want to know what it's like on the other side, in recovery and that sort of thing, by all means, make yourself at home. Because we all know someone who's struggling. We all know someone. Along with that, um, maybe you yourself are struggling with alcoholism or drug addiction. So if that sort of thing, if you find any peace and comfort here, I do not know David Foster Wallace. I don't. There are a lot of people I don't know. Well, even though the Prince Magnum channel is getting pretty. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. I think I know who you're talking about now. And I've seen yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. And I've read some of his book. I know he did a couple of books, and he himself, really, that's awesome. Um, Myself personally, again, I've ended up having to say this quite a few times, and I feel like I'm tooting my own horn, so I apologize. Okay, so someone else who dealt with the same thing. My sober date again is February 7th, 2006. That's when I got sober, and so it's been 14 years as of February 7th this month. And again, that's the difference. Uh, and see, there it is. Thank you. Thank you. Someone who actually touched base on something. And a lot of people, oh, you can't get addicted. Thank you very much for putting that there. Thank you very much. I don't think you realize how many people that's going to need to see that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Mm. Um, that took a lot of courage for you to actually put that up there. Thank you. Um, Again, we're going to, so what we're sharing today in 14 years, okay? 14 years, I've not had a bad day. That's amazing, folks. 14 years. And again, what I have a friend that says that everyone has their isms, okay? And mine was always alcoholism. And, you know, I'm gonna be open and honest. Well, for me, I mean, I find in Alcoholics Anonymous that connection. Okay, again, I'm not going to talk religion, but I'm going to say that um, when it comes to my faith, I know a great deal about my faith. I know an awful lot about my faith, but I had to go into Alcoholics Anonymous to get my faith. And once I was given that faith, that's something, if you will, the best way I could put it, exactly. Right back to step one, two, and three. Okay. And we actually just talked about that in the Alcoholics Anonymous big book. Okay. Uh, you know, um, and real quick, I'm going to give you a little bit of back history on why we call it the big book. All right. When the original one was being printed in 1938, well, I'm sorry, 1939, 1940, when it was being published, um, back then there was really two types of paper to do books with. There was a thin paper, a real thin paper, and then there was a thicker paper. Well, Alcoholics Anonymous, being as small as it was and not having a whole lot of money, the thinner paper cost more. So they had to use the thicker paper. So as they started putting the book together, it got big. Hence the name, the Big Book. So if you've ever wondered about that, that's why we call it the AA Big Book. So that's actually a little bit of history. I know there was a on Showtime. Penn and Teller had their show, Bull, and they started putting down, Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step programs. And as they were putting it down, okay, now we're philosophy now. I love it. I love it. But as they were putting down Alcoholics Anonymous, they talked about they started trying to make fun of the big book, and they didn't even know the history of why that is. And that's the reason why. Well, and I'm also going to say, now that you mentioned that, there are numerous ways to get sober. Okay. Alcoholics Anonymous does not own that corner of the market of people getting sober and or cleaning up their life and that sort of thing. AA does not own that market. Uh, we're just the cheapest way to do it. Okay. But there's many ways to do it. I know there are some people that have went to, I know there was a group at one time called Alcoholics, or something like Alcoholics Victorious or something like that. And, you know, the, I heard never heard anything bad. I know there's several even religious based 12-step programs. Narcotics Anonymous, been around since 70s and very successful in helping people get sober. Um, there's numerous. I think there's even a Cocaine's Anonymous. There's numerous anonymous groups out there, 12-step programs everywhere. See, now that's a tough question. Um, I have heard, see, being around as long as I have, uh, okay, I know with my own personal family tree, if you shake my family tree on either side, uh, on either side, I know at some point you're going to get hit in the head with an empty keg. Okay. And drug addiction was, for some of my family members has been a problem. Um, that sort of thing. I've got relatives that had problems with both. But that's where it is, okay? Uh, oh, goodness, my sister's sending me something. God only knows what it is. We'll look at it later. Um, that being said, um, well, I'm kind of getting to that. I've also met people that had no problems with addiction whatsoever on either side of their family, but then they end up becoming alcoholic, addict, whatever the case may be. They become a chemical dependent. I've met people that said they were pretty much addicted to everything. They had a problem with not only drugs and alcohol, but they also had a problem with gambling and overeating and sleeping around, if you catch my drift. Um, so they were addicted to pretty much everything. But then I've met people that can pick up a drink. Well, I think nowadays a lot of people are addicted to pretty much, everyone suffers from an addiction nowadays. In some way, shape, or form. Somebody, it's one of those things that seems to be kind of permeate itself through our society anymore. But now we're kind of getting out of that realm. We're kind of speculating at that point. I know they say that they have discovered that whole gene that makes what makes a chemical dependent and all that other stuff. I never really got into genetics that far, okay, in my time in the medical field. I never got into genetics that deep. So, that being said, I don't know. I don't know. But the reality of it is that this is, you see more and more addiction nowadays than you ever did at any other time in life. Um, I will say that for whatever reason, and we'll probably have to do we're going to have to do a video kind of really geared towards it. But we did, when I was still involved in AA service work, some stuff had come down from New York, and I do remember distinctly hearing that for some odd reason, um, for whatever reason or another, and I don't know why this is, it seems like the millennial generation has a harder time getting sober than any other generation before, and now Generation Z. But that generation between even Generation X and Generation Z, the millennials, seem to have the hardest time. And it was so much so that AA World Services had even thought about rewriting the first 164 pages of the AA Big Book, which has not really changed at all since its first printing in 1939, 1940. Um, and we'll definitely have to talk about why, but the general consensus was no. AA World Services was told, no, you will not. You will not change this. You're going to leave this alone. For the record, AA World Services, the way the corporate triangle works, you got your corporate heads at the top, and then it works its way down like this, down to the rank and file. Flip that over. The AA groups are at the top, which is very broad. You flip the triangle over, and the groups are at the top, and it goes all the way down to the point, which is AA World Services, all the way up in New York. So all the way down at the very, very bottom is the corporate heads. They're the ones who actually take the orders from the groups. And the way that it works is you go to the groups, and then it has to reach the district, and then it goes to the area assemblies through the delegates all the way, and that's how it works. As a matter of fact, Alcoholics Anonymous is actually so doggone democratic that we barely get anything done. Uh, and I've been involved. I've actually been a GSR for a couple different groups, including an alternate GSR. Been involved in AA service quite a few years. Right now is probably the longest stint in a little while that I have not been involved in service. I've even actually been on the Public Information Committee up in District 16 here in Missouri for the Eastern area. And then for a while, I was for a couple years, I was the alternate DCM for District 6, and then I was the DCM for a while for District 6. Um, and right now, I had to walk away from AA service, but eventually I'm going to have to get back into it because there's so much to learn. I did learn a great deal from AA service. Of course, I was also on the Bridging the Gap, Bridging the Gap. Been on public information numerous times. Been in on the CPC, cooperation with the professional community, and that sort of stuff. So that's how I know a lot of that stuff. So I forgot where the hell I was going with all that. Whew, you got me going there. But that's just something that most people wouldn't know. But for whatever reason, the millennial generation has the worst. And for the record, we did kind of hear come down the pipe that the millennial generation has the most people addicted to drugs and alcohol than any other generation before or since. So if you find that interesting as well, because again, now we're starting to see Generation Z reach the. So for those that do not know this, I will definitely have to as soon as I get a chance. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that, and thank you for the warm wishes about recovery. Again, sobriety is very important to me. So you got me on a tangent there, but that was good stuff. Good stuff. You got me thinking again. Good stuff. All right, real quick. Again, as I've been saying throughout this stream, there's no such thing as a bad day. There's no such thing as a bad day in sobriety. Again, even if the whole day blows up in my face, Sean right there, Sean watching my back again. That's one of the reasons why I asked him to be one of my moderators. Awesome guy. Again, when we're talking about this whole thing, the whole day, blowing up in your face. Now, again, I wish this would have made a connection back when, my grandpa was still, my grandpa on my dad's side, my dad's dad. He always used to say, if the whole day blows up in your face, if you can still sit on the side of the bed and say, at least you still have your health, it wasn't a bad day. So how did, that later on I had to change it if, now that I'm in recovery and everything, I say today, even if the whole day blows up in my face, at the end of the day, well, at least I didn't drink. It was still a successful day. So that's why you'll hear me, constantly say there's no such thing as a bad day. Because a day's in, if I didn't pick up a drink, it was still a successful day. Okay. And I think that's super important for everyone to remember, because if I'm sitting here, 14 years in recovery saying that, that my sobriety, that my whole, the whole thing with sobriety and everything, how important it is to me, and that there's no such thing as a bad day, but there's still successful days. And of course, there's always those good days where everything just falls into place and everything like that. Now I really wished that I would have completely understood what Grandpa meant when he was still alive, because, now that I can, makes more sense now. It makes sense. It makes total sense. Grandpa, you were right. Too bad he's not here for me to be able to tell him that. But anyhow, the things that the sober man passed on to me was, like one of the things he always said, any day above ground's a good day. And, now that we've talked about that and everything, I remember one of the things that this one old timer in AA, he's not with us anymore, and I really wish it was. Always called him Arizona Jim, because he was actually from Arizona and he was a transplant to our area. And this guy was amazing. He had a lot of amazing stuff to say. And one of the things that he would always say, he would always, when he had the opportunity to speak at a meeting, he would always say, my name's Jim, I'm an alcoholic, blah, 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 blah. I had a miracle happen to me today. I woke up this morning and I found it not necessary to take a drink. And any day that that happens is still a miracle. The man had over 30 years. So if you've ever wondered, okay, you know, because we're talking about recovery and everything, if you've ever wondered, Prince Magnum, after 14 years, do you still think about a drink all the time? But, it's that relationship with the God of my understanding that I don't understand, if you will, that keeps me sober today, that relationship. Again, back to that spirituality. And again, if I'm struggling with life on life's terms, it's because I have a problem with step 3. And I might need to actually, read that spot in the book and that sort of thing. I'm not going to lie, people still piss me off today regularly. That's, that's just part of life. Uh, but I'm also reminded of the fact that I've worked the 12 steps, normal everyday people who don't suffer the same problem that I do and haven't went to Alcoholics Anonymous and that sort of thing are at a disadvantage. They've not went through the steps like I've went through. They've not experienced the recovery process like I have. So because of that, I'm at the advantage and I have to remind myself to let it go. And I know sometimes that's very difficult for me because I'm an alcoholic and I have a problem with living life. It isn't, I know a lot of times people think that, oh, an alcoholic, they have a problem with alcohol. Well, it's more than that. We have a problem with living life. And because we have a problem with living life, we turn to a bottle to help us cope with the fact that we can't live life. That's as deep as it gets. I mean, really. I mean, that's that's my problem. I have a problem with life. Plain and simple. So if you've ever wondered about that, that's how it works. Okay. Deep stuff, isn't it? Deep stuff. But that's the stuff that we have learned about in Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the power that comes with it. No smoking mirrors, no fancy illusions. Even though here on the channel I've done some some semi-fancy illusions, some amateur magic. That's just some of the things that we have, that's been passed on to me. So again, in 14 years, I've not had a bad day. I've had rough days, but they've still been successful. They've still been successful in the fact that I've not had to pick up a drink. Any day that I don't find it necessary to pick up a drink is still a miracle. So apply that to your life. If at day's end you haven't fallen short of the thing that you need to do, maybe you yourself are struggling with addiction. If you haven't picked up a drink at the end of the day, it was still a successful day, even though the whole day might have blown up in your face. Just bear that in mind. That is the power of recovery. And if you don't fully, if maybe you're not in recovery, and maybe this sounds intriguing to you, maybe this is something that you maybe you're on the fence of now, maybe you might want to consider it. Come join us at an AA meeting. If you don't like it, if you don't like what AA has to offer, we'll be glad to refund your misery at the front door twofold. Believe me, because AA will mess up your drinking habits. They will mess up your drinking habits. You'll never be able to drink the same again after your first AA meeting. So there you have it. Wow. Does anybody got any other questions for me? I know we got a few people here on the live, and I appreciate all the likes. I see seven likes, and that's pretty awesome. And I really appreciate the fact that so many people have been coming to the Sober Talk lives. I want to try to do this more often, at least once a week, to come in and do something live, which means that at least once a week, I need to come up with a topic to talk about. Okay. I need to come up with a topic that we can all, kind of enjoy and learn something from. And of course, that means I've got to get back into the big book a little bit more often. Yes, Sober Man. You get your wish. I got to get into the big book a little bit more. He gets on to me about that all. He wants me to go to more meetings and stuff like that. Sober, man. I'm trying, man. You know, that work hard for you. And I know that if I said, you know, hey, I got to go take some time at AA, you all would still be watching the videos and making sure I got my watch time minutes. I know y'all would take care of me. All right. You guys are amazing. I love y'all. All right. That's again, the ability to love myself. Real quick, I was 3 years sober when something special happened to me. Before that 3 year marker, I used to look at, before I got sober, I would look at myself in the mirror and say, "You're nothing but a monster." I would say that to myself. And for a good long time in sobriety, I kept saying to myself, "You're nothing but a monster." Around about a year and a half, well, no, probably right around 7 months sober, I started looking at myself in the mirror and say, "You're not half bad." Now today, at 3 years sober and since, I've been able to look at myself in the mirror and say, "I love you" to myself. And if that isn't deep for you, I don't know what is. But let me say right now, for me, okay, to be able to look at myself in the mirror, even this day and age, that is a miracle to be able to look at myself and say, "I love you" to this guy right here. Okay. I love who I am. You know, Alcoholics Anonymous has been able to give to me the ability. Oh, thank you, Sean. Has been able to give me the ability to say, "I love you" to me. Okay. Yeah, every once in a while I get the blues. Every once in a while I feel a little bit low. And every once in a while, I still struggle with living life daily. No question about it. But at least at day's end, if I didn't pick up a drink, plain and simple, it was still a successful day. You guys are awesome. Again, thank you so much for every one of you. I'm going to say it again. I'm a selfish alcoholic, and I need every last one of you out there. I need you all because I'm selfish. I need all of you to help me stay sober today. Now, I don't just need Alcoholics Anonymous. I need all of you. I need every last one of you. That's pretty selfish, wouldn't you say? Because how many subscribers does the Prince Magnum channel have now? Doggone, how much more selfish can I get? Well, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That's what it's all about, And my hope is when I do these Sober Talk lives, that these live streams will be able to reach so many of you out there. Oh, thank you, Sean. Man, you're gonna make me cry. You saying that? Oh man, that's deep, man. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. I'm gonna end up crying again. Gosh dang it, here I go. Oh man, and don't be sorry for it. If I have emotions, that means that I'm feeling, and if I can feel, that means I'm alive and well. And that's again the power of recovery, and that means the world to me that I have recovery in my life, that I have a God of my understanding that's with me, every day. And to be able to share with you some of my favorite stuff out of the big book, thank God I'm alive and well. All right. That brings us to a good stopping point. I think we covered as much as we can cover. I have a kitten that we're fostering that's tearing up the office right now. Unreal. And again, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being here for me today and helping me stay sober yet another 24 hours. You all mean the world to me. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Again, if you're not subscribed to the Prince Magnum channel, be sure to hit the like button and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit the bell icon. Unfortunately, this day and age, just hitting the subscribe button doesn't mean as much as it used to here on YouTube. You got to hit the bell icon to get those notifications. It kind of sucks how they really mess with us creators. I don't want to talk too much about it because it deals with another topic altogether. Not at all related to Sober Talk, but we did a live stream earlier that really kind of covered all of that and that sort of thing. Oh my gosh. Doggone ornery kittens. Tearing up the office. Sebastian, do you want to be on camera? Do you want to get in on this? Come on, buddy. You can get in on this. I mean, you're already here destroying the office. A cute little kitten too. And again, being Sober Talk, we ended a little bit different. Normally, we got the whole, I have a certain way that I do it, but for Sober Talk, we do it as I end the stream as I would in an AA meeting. I don't use my real name, obviously, because as part of the fact that I talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't use my real name at all when I'm in video or on live stream. So if you do know my real name, again, I ask that no one use it in the comments below. Come here, Sebastian. Here. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. No one mad at you. There you go. Isn't he cute? He actually came up to HQ. Lost his home or something. I don't know. He was actually pretty doggone skinny when we got him, but he's fattening up very well. You realize people all around the world are seeing you right now. You know that, right? All right. So that brings us to a great stopping point. And this is how I say it in meetings. So I'm going to say it to all of you who are kind enough to watch the video. At day's end, I hope all of you need me as much as I need you. And as always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.